Hey guys, I wanted to have a little chat about alternative fuels. Now I did touch on this last year and I kind of dropped the ball, got busy doing other stuff and I didn't do any. Now with the price of the way the fuel is and all that stuff, I've been contemplating buying either a Volkswagen TDI or seeing if I can find a cheap truck that's junk kind of idea just to run around in, which I had talked about before. But what I want to do is I want to start running some alternative fuels and giving you guys some, leg up on the information that I've already gathered from it. So hopefully this will help you guys. I have had a few people that I've talked to back and forth on email about it, and people I've talked to in person, all that type of stuff. Darren, one of our subscribers, followers, whatever you want to call him, who I've known for quite a few years. He lives here in Calgary. Him and his son actually brought me 2 gallons of their biodiesel. I do have my own biodiesel, but I don't have it here, so I just thought I'd bring it out. But anyways, it's just in this jug. But we're gonna do some testing with that. My own biodiesel, I gotta get my biodiesel processor back up and functional again. I haven't used it for quite a few years, but I do have a bunch of vegetable oil to process, so we will go through the process of that, making biodiesel. Also black diesel, I call it black diesel, basically it's used engine oil, mixture of stuff. Now there is other ways to do it. You can run straight vegetable oil as long as it's heated and cleaned and stuff. Personally, not the way that I would do it because it is hard on internal components because of the fatty-free acids that's in it. But depending on what you're running, if you're running something cheap and you don't care, you just want cheap fuel, there's lots of different ways to do it. You can run like almost straight engine oil, hydraulic fluid. I don't recommend running synthetics per se. You can run a little bit of it, but it cokes really bad, so it plugs basically the end of the injector up and the combustion chamber and all that stuff. Something else I do want to talk about a little bit, if you guys are planning to run a considerable amount of this stuff, if you guys are putting lots of miles on, that type of stuff, I do recommend having 2 fuel tanks, one that is straight diesel fuel, and then the second one as your secondary fuel source. 2 reasons for that. One is technically you're supposed to have clear fuel for running on street unless you have farm plates. If you have farm plates, that's different. But I recommend that, and also if you have it set up so that there's a valve system to go from one tank to the other, if you are in a cold climate or that type of thing and you need the truck to start, what I used to do with mine was you would switch it over 5 minutes before you got to your house, or even a few minutes before you got to your house. And basically what you do is you flush out the non-diesel fuel per se and get the system full of diesel fuel again, let it run for a few minutes, let it flush through the system. And that also dilutes a little bit of your alternative fuel to help with stuff not sitting with water and that type of stuff in it. Because a lot of that alternative fuel stuff will have water in it, whether it be biodiesel, whether it be used engine oil, black diesel, whatever you want to call it. And then you can also run all kinds of different stuff, which we'll get into later. You can run Jet A, you can run kerosene. So just depending on what you guys can get. But what I wanted to talk to you about today, because we've already done enough gibbering, what I wanted to talk to you about today is what I use, or I make black diesel. I don't actually have any, I'm not making any right at the moment because I don't have anything to run it in. So I have been collecting some good used engine oil, non-synthetic, for probably the last, 4 or 5 months. So a lot of the oil that I'm using, will be what I classify as break-in oil. So it's high in zinc, but it is stuff that we've run for 15 to 20 minutes or the first 1,000 kilometers in something, then we dump it out. So it's almost clean still, which is nice because you don't have to worry about all the crap that's in it. But I want to talk a little bit about filtration and then a little bit about making it. So if you guys are getting used engine oil from somewhere, wherever it may be, like I said before, try to get stuff that's not completely synthetic because you will have a hard time. You can run it, don't get me wrong, but you will have problems with coking, or at least I always did. Now, if you're running constantly on the highway, maybe you won't. I know a friend of mine that runs black diesel, And what he does is he just makes the concentration of his other fuels that he puts into it higher to compensate for the synthetic oil. So just depending on what you're doing. But you can do engine oil, hydraulic fluid, ATF fluid. A lot of ATF fluid now is synthetic. I realize that. But depending on if you're mechanically inclined and you can pull injectors out yourself and all that stuff, I would recommend, no matter if you're doing it, common rail stuff, try to stay away from it for black diesel. Not saying you can't, but a little bit on the dicier side. I'm sure some guys do it and don't have a problem, but completely up to you guys if you want to try it. But I personally, if you were going to run black diesel, I would never run more than 50% of the mixture with regular diesel fuel, myself personally. Completely up to you, whatever you want to do. But in the mechanical stuff, I would run 100% of the mixture that I run. Now, we got the board here. I put the board up. Still never bought a new marker. I don't know, I apparently can't remember to buy a marker. I'm gonna wipe off here. Trying to get stuff set up a little better so when I'm doing this type of stuff, I don't have to rig up stuff all the time. So we're doing black diesel. Actually, let me see. All right, put a drop of alcohol, rubbing alcohol in the pen or in our marker, and that works way better. So, talking about black diesel. So I know there is a couple of you guys that I've talked to that are subscribers for sure. One's Jeff, and Luke. I don't know if Luke is watching much lately. Prayers for him. He's not doing well. But anyways, he runs, actually I shouldn't say that. I think both of you guys run basically just engine oil. Could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments, guys. Talking about black diesel here. So, what I run for black diesel. So, what I do is I do a 70% used oil. Wow, apparently I can't write. Hold on. Let's get that separated a little bit. It's weird being on the side. I'm not really that great at the board here. I do 70% used oil, whether it be engine oil, like we were talking before, engine oil, hydraulic fluid, blah, 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 whatever. Now in that mixture, personally, I try not to do more than 40% in that, more than 40% of that, 40% of that in synthetic oil. Myself personally, so no more than 40% of the 70%. So myself personally, so by volume, right? So if you had 100 liters of this, I would want no more than 40 liters synthetic. Myself personally, that's the best that I have found. Completely up to you guys. You can monkey around with this. So 70% that, and then I do 20% gas, and then I do the rest 10% in diesel fuel or something like that, whether it be diesel fuel, Jet A, I guess I could do that, Jet A, or kerosene. There. Or kerosene. Now the gas, if you guys are lucky enough, if you live in a small town, small-ish town, or you're around any wrecking yards, smaller, bigger, whatever, lots of times, I shouldn't say all the time, lots of times you can get your used engine oil from them, and also you can get used gas, so old gas. If you can get old gas, I personally would run it in a gas vehicle because you don't have any clue what kind of garbage gas. Sometimes they'll get a bunch of good gas and then they get something that's been sitting for 25 years, so it's like garbage. But if you can get old gas for this, this makes this considerably cheaper. And then the 10% diesel fuel, well, 10% diesel fuel, 10% diesel fuel. I just run diesel fuel. So if you can get Jet A for free somewhere, if you happen to know somebody that's into aviation, works at an aviation, an airport, hangar, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Because anytime they do service, or if it sits for a certain length of time, that is thrown away. Now, if you can get your paws on it for cheap or nothing, just taking it away, good deal. But it is very dry, so if you're doing that, depending on what injection system you're running, if you're a P pump, you can just run Jet A with nothing in it. I still perk lubrication in it myself, but you can get, if you get Jet A, you can run it in a P pump with no lubrication. Technically, I personally wouldn't, but if you can get Jet A or kerosene, there again, stove oil, depending on where you guys are, depending on what you can get, you can do stove oil, you can do colored diesel fuel. I'm not saying that you should run colored diesel fuel on the road, but you could run colored diesel fuel, just depending on what you can get your paws on. So, and when you mix this all together, being used engine oil, it's black. Black, 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 black. Now, so this is the ratio that I run myself personally when I'm doing black diesel. I haven't run it for a long time, but this is the ratio that I run it in. Now, something that I do want to note for you guys that are doing this is you want to make sure this stuff is clean. It doesn't have sediment, doesn't have garbage in it, because if it does, you are going to plug fuel filters, you're going to put a bunch of sediment in the fuel tank if you don't have a separate fuel system. We will set up a separate fuel system on the truck that I'm putting together for towing. I haven't completely decided yet, but if the price of fuel stays the way it is, we probably will set up a completely separate fuel system, so you'll be able to have valves, flip the valves, and basically have a separate tank with a separate gauge and all that stuff. So just depending on how the world goes here, but I don't really want to pay. We're paying, what the heck did I see this morning? $1.69 a liter Canadian. So I don't know what that is in US dollars. I'll figure it out, put it on the screen, but it's not cheap. And that's not even, we're in one of the lowest places in Canada price for fuel wise. So it can be, you know, like I think in BC, like in the west side of BC, they're into probably close to $2 a liter. So that gives you an idea. You're 3.785 liters in a gallon. That gives you an idea of what it costs us for fuel. It is more expensive for fuel here than it is down in the States, most states anyway. But filtration. Personally, when I'm doing this, I run it through a centrifuge. I'll show you the centrifuge. I guess I did show you guys the centrifuge, I think, in that video, the first video. But anyways, I'll show you the centrifuge setup that I have. It's nothing special really, per se. I don't even remember what I had into it, but I'll figure it out when we get to that point. But there is lots of ways you can filter it. You can just run a filter base with a little electric pump. It doesn't have to be anything special. You just want to filter it the best you can. So if you get a filter base with like a 1 micron filter, you know, and the bigger the filter you get, obviously the more you can pump through it without having to replace the filter. And if you're not in a huge rush for it, that also helps as well. So personally, I do 1 micron, 1 mic. Whoops. I don't know if that's just spelled micron or not, but let's go with it anyway. I'm not very good at spelling, but I like to do 1 micron. It doesn't have to be 1 micron absolute, but if you get it down to 1 micron, myself personally, that's tighter than the filter is going to be on pretty much any, well, it's tighter than any vehicle from the manufacturer that I know of, diesel wise. So you don't have to worry about the fuel having anything in it. Now, if you're running a centrifuge, that will take more out than even this filter will. But yeah, you probably even could go, I did 1 micron, but I kind of get carried away. You could probably do, let's do 1 to 5 micron filter. But like I said, if you guys are into doing this, you need a little bit of space to do it, because at the very least, in my opinion, you want to be able to do it in a 45-gallon drum, or a 50-gallon drum, 55-gallon drum, I guess now they call them, but anyways, 55-gallon drum. I like to have a cart underneath it so you can move it around, and then obviously you need a pump to pump it through back and forth. Maybe we'll set one up. Actually, that's maybe not a bad idea. I think maybe I'll set one up. It's not going to be right away, but we'll do it sooner than later. I got to get my garage at home cleaned out so I can get the short box in there when I get it done, so we can get the short box and the race truck, and I want to get a bunch of junk out of there. But I'll set up some stuff so that we can do the biodiesel, we can do the black diesel, and the filtration the way I do filtration and all that stuff. We'll get it all set up and maybe pretty it up a little bit, something different. I kind of just did it a fast setup when we did it and we ran it the way it was, but I'd like to make it nicer this time. Maybe make it up on an actual little stand and make something nice. Anyways, So 5 micron, if I don't take the mark off, 1 to 5 micron, the tighter the better, but even 5 micron, you know, is not too bad, but personally, the tighter the better. So I don't know what else to talk about on this black diesel one. Like I said, if you can get old gas, the used engine oil usually isn't too hard to come by. If you can get old gas from any wrecking yards or anything that's around you, that's a plus, because you can usually buy that super cheap, because they cost them to get rid of it. So you can usually get it super cheap. And then same with the diesel fuel, Jet A or kerosene. If you can get anything, or stove oil, same idea, or furnace oil, all does the same thing. Now, I will put a disclaimer in here for you guys. I do not recommend running this on the road, because you have not paid road tax. Now, that being said, that's the disclaimer. Do whatever you may, or you will. That is the disclaimer on this one. So if you guys are interested in doing this, I will be doing something shortly for you guys. Hopefully in the next bit, we will get something set up so that I can show you guys. But like I said, I don't have anything to run it in at the moment. If you're talking bigger horsepower stuff, I personally don't like running it, because you do get coking injectors, and it does kind of havoc the system a little bit. So I personally recommend doing it on something that is relatively stock, and you're not too concerned about maybe putting injectors in once in a while, because there's that two sides of the game, right? Is that you save in fuel, but you will have more maintenance. You're gonna have to change fuel filters more often. You're probably gonna have to pull the injectors and clean the injectors out, or replace more often. But that's also one of those things, if you take a P-pump 12 valve, or a 12 valve in general, let's say you had to put a set of injectors in it every, I don't know, let's go in miles. Let's say you had to do a set every 50,000 miles. Well, if you're doing this, and you should be able to do this for, I would say probably 50 cents a gallon. Nah, probably even lighter than that. Between 25 cents and 50 cents a gallon, you should be able to make this stuff. I could be wrong on the math, but let's say 50 cents a gallon. If you can make this for 50 cents a gallon, and you run that for 50, let's say 50 to 80,000 miles, if you haven't, you've saved way more money than what it's going to cost you to put a set of injectors in it. Myself, personally, I would put in a set of injectors in, or at least pull them out, clean them, put new nozzles on, that type of thing. Make sure you keep the fuel filter clean, that stuff. Now, something else I did want to mention that I did on the last truck that I ran this in, which was a VE Cummins. What I did with it was I ran water meth. Now, 90% of the time in the summertime, I ran water in it. I had a 7-gallon reservoir for water. I ran water in it. And whenever I was over 15 pounds of boost, which is in the VE, a stock VE is not, like, you're not always there. But over 15 pounds of boost, it was spraying water into the intake. And when I pulled that motor apart, because I actually ripped that engine apart because, the truck was rotten and I tore it apart. But we ended up ripping the engine apart because I was curious to see what it looked like inside. And it actually looked fine. But it was super, super clean inside. That was something, like, I didn't have injector coking problems after I did that. I didn't have any combustion chamber load up or any of that type of stuff from the used engine oil. So that is something to keep in note for you guys, that if you are doing it, if you run water meth, or even just straight water in the summertime, or for you guys that are somewhere where it doesn't freeze, you know, you can do that. And it honestly, really, for the most part, it runs, when I doing this, it ran relatively clean as far as like out the tailpipe. Now, if you are finding that it is running dirty, what you have more than one option. You can jam up how much gas you're putting in. And if you have really bad gas, then sometimes you'll have to put a little bit more. And then also the other side of things is you can add more diesel fuel. So, you know, if you find that it's running really crappy, if you got maybe too much, you didn't realize you got to whack a synthetic or something, just go to the fuel station and dump in some diesel fuel and dilute it a bit. You know, throw 50, you know, I guess it depends, depending on how big your tank is. The tank that I had in the back of my truck was 250 liters. So what I would do is I would just go throw $50 in that tank if it was running funky. to, you know, get it moved around, you know, or to dilute it, I should say. Because if you have to throw $50 in it once in a while, come on, guys, like, you know, doesn't hurt it if you throw a little extra in there. So that is all I can think about. I just wanted to, it's kind of touch base. We will do more videos on this, but this is the kind of the, actually I'll write that on there, water, meth. And I did it over 15 pounds, 15 PSI. And then water only in the summer, water only in summer. And now also too, hopefully you guys can see that. Also too, it does keep your EGTs down. So if you're towing with it, keeps your EGTs down. Now, if you're running in the wintertime, obviously you either need to take it off if you're on run water only because you can't freeze, or you run windshield washer fluid, or you buy methanol, mix methanol and water together, whatever floats your boat. I just ran windshield washer fluid. Nowadays, the price of windshield washer fluid, you're better off buying menthol hydrate or methanol and mixing 50-50 with water so it doesn't freeze. But there again, at that point, if you you know, it's more expensive. So just depending on what you want to do. If you're doing that, you can even run less water, less methanol. I shouldn't say you have to run 50-50. Can't remember. We should actually talk about water meth too one of these days, but I'll get into that there again when we're putting that truck together more. But I think you can do, if any of you guys know, drop it down in the comments below. I want to say 25% methanol and 75% water, I think. And it won't freeze. I think that gives you like -40 or something like that. But if you guys are in the area and you're not planning on using it that much, you know, if you do 7 gallons of it, 7 gallons should last you a long time. If you find that you're burning too much in the wintertime, just turn your boost control, because if you have water meth, you'll likely have a boost control, so that you can set when it comes on. Just set it so it turns on higher boost. So if the truck, let's say, makes 25 pounds of boost, set it so that it's at 22 pounds. So 99% of the time it's likely not going to be on. But then, you know, if you're on the highway and you rat bag it a little bit, you know, or if you're towing real heavy or something, it'll give that blast and help clean it out. And every once in a while you can just turn it on. I used to have mine on a trigger button so I could actually turn it on. So you have like a little scramble button. Not that it made the truck fast, but made me happy. So anyways, like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments. And remember, it's not rocket science.